who do you guys think is the best rim protector that we have in the NBA? Starting with you,
you put me on the spot. Okay. See, it's interesting because I'm looking at everyone on this list between like Giannis, and it's like Giannis isn't like primarily the 5 or anything like that. And then like there's Lopez, but I don't know how I feel about Lopez being the best rim protector in the NBA. I also think he kind of had like a career year last year, and there's no way he's going to play this good next year. He could still be a really good defender, but I don't know. I like Bam, his intangibles as a rim protector. He's kind of small though. Between Jaren Jackson Jr., Rudy Gobert, you know who I might say here?
Kessler,
and
Walker
most of this year, I believe he was like statistically like the best. He had like the best defensive rating for like a starting center in the league. I don't know if he ended as that, but I think it was like for most of the year, and that was the most valuable player, Joel Embiid. Is that a crazy take? I mean, okay. I don't know. I just
take.
I feel like
I got opinions on Joel Embiid's overrated, in my opinion, defense, but I'm gonna let you cook.
Well, my thing is though, like just from watching him this year, and like I'm kind of close with a few Philly fans, so like I watch more attentively, I guess, like on the defensive side with that, and just all the stuff. See, all the narratives I feel like that the media wanted to push out about a couple years ago with the Jazz, and like, oh yeah, like Rudy Gobert's a fraud, but at the same time, it's like none of the perimeter players can stay in front of their guys, and then it brings Rudy Gobert over, and then he has to help out and stuff like that. I feel like the way Embiid does that, like, and he is basically as a help defender and a rim protector for 2 guards that aren't really great perimeter defending guards in Tyrese Maxey and James Harden. I mean, what he's done with that, and really even, I mean, Tobias is, I guess, okay at points, but I wouldn't say they have like the most ideal starting 5 defensively. And just from like me watching, like straight up the eye test, when those guards get downhill and they get past their guy, and then it gets to like a 2-on-1 situation, if it's like a pick and roll or something like that, I feel like Embiid defends that with the best of them. And you think about how many times he's put in that situation. I mean, this guy is like up there with league leaders in minutes per game. He's up there with, league leaders in games played, obviously. Just run on the floor. And that's what you're going to get out of an all NBA level player, an MVP level player. And the fact that he also still has the energy to be the leading scorer in the league while doing that at such a high level, I'm gonna give Embiid my vote. Actually,
that's a good point. I'm surprised he actually was not on our list.
You shouldn't have been there, but that's just me.
No, I agree. I agree to an extent that I don't think he's as good as these guys that we have listed here, but I'm surprised we didn't have him based off of name value, MVP winning, stuff like that. But I have Rudy Gobert being the best paint defender in the entire league, based purely off of, I don't think this year we had a lot of great paint defenders. I think we had a lot of above average good paint defenders, but nothing like, I feel like in years past we've had like one or two really good paint defenders, and everybody else was kind of just mid at paint defending. But this year it felt like we had a kind of like a surge of paint defending where there were a lot of quality paint defenders. And the best example of that is Brook Lopez, because Brook Lopez, having a career on the defensive end of things. But with that being said, Rudy Gobert, having already won the Defensive Player of the Year multiple times, he has just a natural thing about him where people and guards will not drive to the paint a lot of the time because Rudy's in the paint. And that is, you could say is, well, that's not really him being a good defender, but you don't gain that respect. And that doesn't happen unless you had or currently are one of the best paint defenders in the league. And given the opportunity to defend the paint in a typical paint defender form, and not what Jay likes to hammer on about how he's getting exposed by perimeter defending, because that's completely different.
Stanley Johnson.
By paint defending, with paint defending.
Stop bringing up Stanley Johnson, bro.
Dude, when talking about paint defending, Rudy Gobert still is up there when it comes to shot deflections, shots blocked, shot like deterrence, stuff like that. He's always going to be up there, has always been up there. And I think you take those three things into account. Pass out situations, forcing the pass out. Rudy Gobert is up there and has always been up there with those guys. And I think nothing changed except for him going over to a team that wasn't quite as good in Minnesota than those Jazz teams were. And also him not being in that same system, having the acclimation season. So people were like, oh, he's not as good. When in reality, towards the end of the season, actually probably the second half of the season, he was actually a really, really, really good paint defender. So he, in my opinion, was the best paint defender purely based off of the fact that he has the intangibles. He has all the tools to be the best paint defender and was the best paint defender. I don't think the stats will show it, but from an eye test, in my opinion, he was the best paint defender.
So you're biased, and that's okay. I respect it. But respectfully, I think that the best rim protector in the league is Jaren Jackson Jr. You talk about a guy who, ever since he's shown that best defender in the league type, what am I trying to say? Like he showed flashes of, him being a top level defender in this league. And ever since then, he's continued to prove year by year. Last year, speaking on the 2021-22 season, he was a fantastic defender. And then it was kind of the narrative that he fouled out too much. That was quickly disproven this season. And you look at what he did this season, he
still fouled out a lot. It's still a problem that he has in his game.
It was, in my opinion, it was largely overblown because he did foul out. He had a stretch where he fouled out a few times in I think it was a 2-week stretch or something like that. And so it definitely was an issue. I think it's largely become under control, and he's a big man, and he's the most important defender on that team. So if there's anybody that's going to foul, it's going to be him. But, with him winning Defensive Player of the Year honors this year, I think that he truly has taken his game to a defensive level, taken his defensive game to a new level, And I really like the ceiling that I see for Jaren Jackson Jr. because when you look at him, you really, really do not want, if you're an undersized guard or if you're a guard in general, or if you're forward, if you're not someone that can match his verticality, his physicalness on the defensive side of the ball, you don't really want to drive against him. You don't really want to, make those tough layups because more than likely he's coming down with that shit. I would say in the playoffs, we saw this to a pretty decent amount, but not towards the level that he was in the regular season. And that's something that you can note was like, hey, when it came down to time in the playoffs, he didn't show up as much. But I think that those are still a bit of growing pains with him as a young player. And I think that the consistency throughout the playoffs and the regular season will come as he matures, as his game matures, and as he, continues to learn things about defense in the NBA, what he can get away with, what he can't get away with. To your credit, when he fouls less, which he's already started to foul less, fouling even less and stuff like that. So, yeah, I have Jaren Jackson Jr. as the best rim protector in the league.
I think you all have some good players here. I will say I do agree with one of you. And I think at this point, every guy that's been listed is like at least a 9 out of 10 rim protector, right? I mean, we're giving them all best in the league arguments for a reason. To me, the guy that I picked as the best rim protector in the league is the guy who gets to focus most of his attention there. And that would be Rudy Gobert. Now, Jaren Jackson definitely has higher upside there. And I don't even want to completely go the foul route. I just think that the other guys that we usually talk about, I know this list has, a Giannis on it. Like some people will even say Bam, Joel Embiid. These guys are all very focused. And yes, as the team's primary rim protector, but also in other areas, notably just being more versatile defenders, the ability to stretch out to the perimeter, guard smaller guys, and just do a lot of different things on defense. And then more in Embiid's case, just on the offensive end with how much of a force he is there, that takes a lot of effort. And what is one of the biggest parts of defense is your effort and your energy. Rudy Gobert's, his entire game is rim protection, and that's what he's made his money off of his entire career. That's really just his whole niche as an NBA player. In Utah, teams would get past their man because they didn't have a lot of defenders. Playoffs for them, that system was tailored to do that, and he played that role to the best of his ability.
Wait,
And the best of that ability
before
was
you
a top three
continue,
defense.
did he just lag out for anybody else?
Yeah. He lagged for a
Hey,
hot, like
restart,
3 or 4 seconds.
Like
Restart
3
that, 'cause
seconds, you
we
lagged.
couldn't hear you for
Repeat from where you were saying that like Joel Embiid is like an offensive powerhouse, basically.
Right. So Embiid is an offensive powerhouse. With Rudy Gobert, he just puts in all his effort to being a rim protector. Going back to the Jazz days, like Rudy Gobert, he'd be in the paint. They did not have a lot of good perimeter defenders. So what was the goal? The scheme was, all right, they're going to get by their man. Basically by design, they're going to funnel them to Rudy Gobert. And he was such a force of nature as a rim protector that he took that lack of defensive talent to a top 3 defense in the NBA. Now, did that always pan out in the playoffs? No, it did not. However, for 82 games and some change, every year, Rudy Gobert's impact would have your defense at the top of the league based on that really just one big skill. Paint defense is his one big thing. And it was that effective. Other guys, they might give you that. And they might give you that at a very high level, but nobody is as focused on being a great rim protector like Rudy Gobert is going to be. And while the Minnesota Timberwolves stats may not show that, JELSON did give a fair example of a lot of Minnesota Timberwolves stats that do show that, and that do show that he was still very effective as a rim protector. And I think it'll only help the more he actually fits in this scheme and gets to really maximize his efforts. Because let's be honest, we've talked about it so much on this stream already today. It was an adjustment year. Defense is a lot of scheming, and especially when Rudy Gobert came from a system that was so heavily schemed to maximize his strengths, well, now he's going to have to get to a place where he's going to have to figure out how to get his stuff in. He has to figure out how to maximize his ability when everything is not perfectly tailored to him, or if they want to make something perfectly tailored to him, it's not the same players around him. He's never played with a defender as good as like a McDaniels. It's different talent. So different situation, but I still think just due to how big of a focus rim protection is on his game allows him to provide that at a higher level than anybody else.
I mean, I don't disagree with most of what you said. I think the only thing I would say that I'm not so sure of is I know you said like he gets the most attention because I like you said something like I think he had like the highest like load of these guys like to manage or something. But in Utah, I would agree to an extent. Like that's a fair argument. I don't know if I would agree to the same extent when he has, perimeter defenders like Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels as well around him to alleviate some of that pressure that maybe he didn't have prior. So like a year or two ago, I would agree with that, or I would be fine with that. I just don't know if I agree with that as much anymore.
See,
that wasn't really the point I was making. It was less about the load he's taking on. It's more of the fact that rim protection is Rudy Gobert's game. That is what he does. And versus anybody else we talk about, they're going to put some of their effort into with Embiid scoring, with Bam Adebayo on the perimeter and switching. Rudy Gobert is going to rim protect.
It is his specialty, I suppose. But what I would say is I wouldn't necessarily bank on the fact where it's just because it's someone's specialty means that he's the best in the league. Because let's say for example, who's Kyle Korver or JJ Redick, these guys made a staple for themselves for shooting the ball, but they're not the greatest shooter of all time.
That isn't at all. That isn't at all a similar comparison because Rudy Gobert had, and in my opinion still is, but at least if you don't want to say this year, had at one point, let's say 2 years ago, was the best paint defender in the league, unanimously.
Okay, I thought we were talking about now.
And then that's what I was just gonna say.
That's petty as hell. That is petty.
What I was gonna.
Yeah.
But I just disproved that your thought process of just because he's a specialist doesn't mean that he's best in the league. But what I will tell you is that
it's true though.
This year
he could be. I'm just saying that.
No. I agree that just because specialty doesn't mean that he is the best. But that isn't a debate with Rudy is specifically. And What I will tell
What do you
is
What do you mean
also-
by isn't a debate exactly?
or it isn't a point to be made because Rudy has already shown that he can and more than likely is that best defender because it is his main focus point in his game. But what I will also tell you is that you brought up how with Minnesota you have the Jaden McDaniels of the world, the Anthony Edwards of the world, where he's never seen these players before, or he never played with the defender as this good before the defense system completely changed because it's not funneling towards Rudy Gobert. What I will tell you is it's an adjustment year, as Gabe said. It's an adjustment year. He's learning how to play with these guys with Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards. While at the same time, along with learning how to play with these guys, he was still towards the second half of the season. In my opinion, the second half of the season, he was clearly the best rim defender in the league. But even towards the beginning of the season, he was still maybe not providing at that Utah level because the system was different. But what I would tell you is that he was providing at a top 5 rim protector level during that time period. The second half of the season was completely different. He got locked in. They decided Chris Finch knew how to really lock him in and knew how to use him even with Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards. And then that's when you really saw that he still is that best perimeter or paint defender in the league.
But my thing is, JELSON, is that like and he very well could be. I mean, I already said like I would pick Embiid, but in terms of like that, like you were going on a tangent kind of about that and then saying like, I'm not talking about Utah and you were focusing on Minnesota, but then at the same time you said like, well, he had to get adjusted to it was a new system and stuff like that, which almost felt like it was excusing him for maybe not playing up to par of what we've seen in Utah most of this season. That's what I don't get.
What I would tell you is it's an excuse for him to not play number 1 level for half of the season, but play top 3 or top 5 level. And then the second half of the season becoming that number 1 paint defender that we had seen in the years past. I don't think what I would tell you is I don't think that half of a season of him only being a top 5 paint defender in the league should discredit him from not being the best paint defender in the league after being that for like 5 years in a row.
I get that. I think I get that argument because there's players who go like, if you think LeBron was the best player in the league from 2011 to 2018, in 2015-16, Steph Curry played the best basketball in the world. Now, there was a debate to be had, is Steph Curry the best player in the league? That season, Steph Curry was the best player in the league. For that 82-game stretch, Steph Curry played better basketball than everybody. But I think a lot of people would still tell you LeBron James is the best player in the league. And I think that's a lot of what Jelson's getting at as far as like, at that very moment, he might not have been playing the best paint defense, but we know that he is that caliber of player. Just like in 2015-16, a lot of people still would have told you that LeBron James is a better basketball player than Steph Curry, even if Steph Curry was performing at a higher level at that moment. Now, I want to address kind of my thing from earlier, and I think your whole like Kyle Korver point, the whole specialty point, my whole thing, and this is really what I've been getting at the whole time with Rudy Gobert, is that say talent-wise, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Joel Embiid are all 10 out of 10 rim protectors, right? Well, Rudy Gobert.
9 out of 10. You said 9 out of 10.
But
I did, but just for the sake of comparison, hear me out.
Okay.
Because if we're saying nobody's better, I'll go 10, right? Because we're saying best in the league, okay? So I know that Rudy is going to give me that 10 out of 10 effort every single possession, every single night. While I know that those other two guys also have that 10 out of 10 talents, they have other responsibilities on the court. And so while they might have the same talent, production-wise, I know that Rudy Gobert is going to give me that 10 out of 10 rim protection every night. Joel Embiid might have some nights, because let's be honest, Joel Embiid's stamina and like load management and everything, that's been a part of Joel Embiid's career always, notoriously does not play back-to-backs. If Joel Embiid is giving you the 10 out of 10 effort on scoring, while he is a 10 out of 10 rim protection talent, he might be giving you 8 out of 10 production that night, even 9 out of 10 production that night. So if they're the exact same caliber of player, but Joel Embiid is using some of his energy elsewhere, the rim protection production that I'm getting out of Rudy Gobert is going to be higher.
I like that.
I mean, the one thing I was just gonna say, I feel that, but I don't know if I would use the word like when you said like with Rudy Gobert, I'm gonna get 10 out of 10 effort. I don't know if I would say that.
I think
There are
production.
times-
I think production is the better word.
Okay, like he's gearing his production towards rim protection and rebounding,
Yes.
essentially.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Because I was like, there's a lot of plays he takes off, and like
Yes.
he almost looks, you know what I mean? So go ahead. Jay.
Me personally, I actually love the word
Effort? Production?
effort, yeah. I don't know why.
Size?
I actually love the word effort because a lot of the time Rudy Gobert be over helping. I mean, the lack of foot speed he has, absolutely insane. And I just want to bring up the fact you guys pointed out Rudy Gobert's 3 fraudulent defensive player of the year that he got on the Utah Jazz. Let me just say that Quinn Snyder's system directly resulted in those.
Jay.
Wait, no, wait, let me cook.
No, you're not
I'm
cooking
cooking.
right now because
cooking.
you
Air
have
fryer.
to be a certain talent, certain great talent to have the whole defensive scheme go to the players only going to you. Do you understand how crazy that is? Do you understand how good of a defender you have to be for a entire defensive scheme just to be centered 2 players going to you so you can stop every single player on the other team? You understand?
Jelson,
how
you're
crazy that
cooked,
is?
bro. Jelson, you're cooked. Because listen, when Jay said the air fryer is on, mute your mic. Mute your mic. The air fryer is on. Let that man cook.
Listen. If I'm 7 feet tall, and I'm in Quinn Snyder's system, where it's like, hey guys, I know y'all are not very good perimeter defenders, but don't even try. Just funnel everybody to me. I'm getting 3 DPOYs too, bro.
No, you're not.
Hey, let's be honest.
No, you're not.
You're-
bro.
dude,
you have to have
you're-
a certain talent for
Yeah, you
that.
can't defend, bro.
Second of all,
Jay, how tall are you?
He's like 5 foot on a good day.
Yo, relax. My guy Jay is 5'3".
First of all, don't disrespect me. Wait, hold on. Don't disrespect me. I'm 5'9". All right, I tell the
Oh my
females
God,
I'm 5'11".
5'9". I can be a rim protector in the NBA.
I could get 3 blocks a game against LeBron James.
If I was 7 feet tall, that's what I'm saying.
No, you're
Now-
not. No, you're
Now, the best rim
You're a
protector,
joke.
the best rim protector actually in the league right now is Bam Adebayo. Y'all missed it. What's better as a defender than stopping your
He's
guy before you even get to the rim?
6'9".
Jelson's taller than Bam.
What does that have to do with rim protector? Did you just say that? Did you just say Bam Adebayo is the best rim protector in the league because he's a better perimeter defender?
Is Marcus
is a
Smart,
crazy
wait,
point.
2 years ago, was Marcus Smart the best paint defender in the league then? Just genuine question.
What did bro just cook? The air fryer's off.
Marcus Smart was
He
not.
unplugged it, bro.
Bro, is my shit lagging?
No.
Marcus Smart was not somebody that guarded bigs or down there constantly like Bam Adebayo.
He was stopping players from getting to the paint, so therefore he was the best paint defender in the league.
My guy Knight Triker knows what's up. Yes, sir.
Embiid
Had to
number
bring
one.
that up.
That's cap. Embiid has 5 good
Okay.
defensive plays in him all game. That's it. Embiid is gassed out like me, brother. His cardio is.
Wait, so if you're 7 would you beat Joel Embiid?
No, Joel Embiid actually has offense to his game. He has a bag, unlike Rudy Go.
Wait, you just said that if you were 7 foot, though, that, bro, you get what I'm saying? You said if you were 7 foot, but then you just said Embiid is gassed like me.
I said, no,
This man just contradicted his own point.
I was talking about Joel Embiid's offense.
Jay, I'm
You
not
said
gonna
it- you
lie.
said you-
Nah, bro. Stop talking about Joel Embiid. Stop talking about Rudy Gobert. You said Bam Adebayo is the best rim protector in the league.
Can we go back to that? Because
Because
that's bullshit.
He could
Absolutely.
stop you because he could stop you before he had to protect the rim.
Because
Absolutely.
he knows he's cooked when he gets to the rim.
Bro,
Hey, so I
let
got
me ask you this.
Adebayo-
Let me ask you this. Is Trae Young the best defender in the league because he can score more points than you on the offensive side?
All right, now y'all just chatting. Y'all chatting. Because that has no
No,
correlation.
you're
with
Go
each
ahead,
other.
Mo.
Jay,
Go ahead,
Jay,
Mo.
I'm gonna ask you this
Chatting.
question. I'm gonna ask you this question.
All
Look
right.
me dead in my face and tell me if
I'm looking.
I'm gonna ask you: is Bam a better rim protector than Jaren Jackson Jr.? If you say
Nah.
yes, you're a liar.
He's a nice defender.
He just said no. Then he's not the best rim protector in the league.
All right, I'm not. All right, I'm not gonna lie. Y'all throwing me off a little bit. Y'all are throwing me off a little bit.
Jay,
What?
you've made me take my headphones off 3 times this episode. Dude, that's like a record.
I'm walking off, bro.
All right, listen,
I'm walking
This segment.
Listen.
This
There's no doubt
segment.
that there is no doubt that Bam Adebayo is the best defender out of everybody on this list, right? Why